Do you have IBS? Do you know what IBS stands for? Irritable Bowel Syndrome. Well, there's many people that have it and they're not diagnosed with it, and they wonder what goes on with that. How does it affect their lives? What you already know, then you have lived experience. So we're gonna talk more about that coming up next. Irritable bowel syndrome. Interesting topic. Stay tuned. Hello, everyone, and thanks for tuning in to PWD Allies podcast. My name is Brent Frayne. I'm the host. Today, I have Tom Pogson joining me. We're going to be talking about IBS, Irritable Bowel Syndrome, and how it affects Tom's life on a day-to-day basis. Tom's going to be talking about IBS. It could be a very undiagnosed condition. A lot of people go through it, and they don't even realize it until it affects their lives. And it can be really detrimental to a person's well-being on a day-to-day basis. And well, I mean, Tom would know better than I do. I mean, because he's going through it, and Tom's going to talk about that next. But first off, before we start the show, I want to thank everyone for tuning in, and please subscribe, like, and share the content. If you haven't already joined the podcast, and this is your first time viewing it or listening to the podcast version, there's many ways of subscribing to the podcast. If you just want to listen to it in audio, check out your favorite app.
If you don't like our faces.
If you don't like our faces, but if you like to hear our voices, then yeah, there's ways of subscribing. So definitely share the content. Our viewership is building up, and be amongst the other ones to tune into our shows. And stay tuned for Breaking with Brent segments. That was always fun to do. And, there might be some travel segments in the future. Who knows? We just kind of wing it and go with it.
That's why you just need to subscribe so you don't miss all the other cool content that we have on the channel. Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's my favorite episode, which I haven't done in a while. It's coffee time. But in summer, there's going to be lots of those coming up. So join in and be part of it. Thanks for Tom for coming on to the show today. How are you?
Good.
Yeah.
Funny enough, my body was acting up a little bit before this because. I'm gonna start with a joke. I just remembered this. I remember telling I'm in a Celtic band called Cookele, and I told Kim Cook this one joke, which is completely based on reality. Because I work nights, I wake up at about 9, 10. I like to joke that if there was a person, you have those big oversized checks that you get at like when you win something, or here's a check that we're giving to this organization or something. Yeah. If there was a person right now down at the legislature holding a giant check saying, Tom Pogson, if you can get down here right now, we'll give you a check for $1 million. I'd be here going, could have done with that money. That's IBS.
Yeah,
exactly.
And I have gum right now, and this is actually one of my little tricks. I've actually told a friend about this. I got this came from this little package of gum, Winter Mint, came from once having to go up island, and my IBS was acting up, and my lead singer gave me one of these, and I've sworn by them since, because they just between the mint and giving your body something to do, it kind of helps to take away some of the focus on everything else. So I'm gonna have some now, but so I'm literally live. But yeah, IBS, it's irritable bowel syndrome. And no two IBS sufferers are alike, and there is no panacea cure. There is no, actually all you have to do is take this pill and you can eat
Yeah.
anything you want. It all
Right.
goes away. Don't we? We fixed it.
Yeah.
No, we haven't fixed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That
There's
would be
things you
you
can
have
do.
you got the blue pill or you got the red pill.
Yeah.
Well, you said a joke to start us off on the podcast. So you notice that I'm wearing my shit-colored shirt.
I was wondering,
you
like,
know,
today we're
and-
talking shit.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Yeah.
I just figured it's kind of going with a theme. I thought I better wear my shit-colored shirt. So that's why I'm wearing this today.
Yes.
Yeah.
But also, before we get too long, I mean, you're going to talk about your lived experience, but also you posted on Facebook a few days ago, and then I piped in like an idiot, and I said, well, Tom, why don't you try the kefir yogurt and there's aloe water and what else? There's also green tea.
There's a few things.
I mean, those are things that help me, and this is what we can get into because I have GERD issues. I have really bad gut issues as well. I've had them since basically since about 40. I've had really bad gut issues. A few years ago, I had a really bad internal bleed. Actually, it could have almost killed me. It was so bad.
Oh my God.
So like my issue is pretty severe. It's pretty serious. And so like I just volunteered like what helps me, but maybe you can get into it how GERD and stomach issues might not be exactly the same as IBS.
I had so it's like one of those things where there's so many different directions you can go. I had a dietitian and a doctor kind of confirm like, yep, it's probably IBS. I went through checking if it was GERD. It was like I did tests for H. pylori, which are delightful. you have to do the thing and send the sample to them, and it wasn't H. pylori. So I was like, okay, it wasn't that. Because it was about 40 for me as well. For me and my late loved one, she also had a little bit of it. And so I'm like, okay, we're two people in the same apartment. Maybe there's something in the air. So I got that thieves oil stuff. The water tank behind me came from there. Came from like, okay, maybe it's the water. I tried changing foods around. That's closer to it. So many things. Like, I wonder if there's mold in the walls. Like, that was one of the things about moving. Or maybe it's because of the mold in the walls. That's what caused it. But I mean, even as a little kid, I remember crawling to the washroom some nights, depending on what I had or whatever. Like, I literally, like, on like my left side would be just in pain, and it was like you'd have to have water and stuff to kind of pass everything eventually through, and then you could go back to sleep. So I had the constipational thing, and I have also ADHD, and I've also had some doctors diagnose me with anxiety disorder, but it's not beneficial. Yeah. So it's like between anxiety and ADHD's ability to overdrive you, it can also lead eventually to the other thing. I don't know quite the workings, but basically a lot of like I'll go more into like coping mechanisms. But like one thing was pointed out to me, because I joined a bunch of IBS Facebook groups, and on them, the one thing, like I submitted a rest, like, this is what I have before work, and they said, no, sorry, Tom. And it's like, well, why? Because everybody's IBS is different, and it's true. Like, I could have garlic bread. A whole bunch of IBS sufferers went, what?
Yeah, like,
garlic is famously like you can't have that, but I can't have onions. Yeah. But when it comes to other things like potatoes, I'm going to get into this, but potatoes are supposed to be okay. I can have russet potatoes. I can have potatoes that aren't deep fried. Nothing else. If I have like the yellow potatoes or the red ones, doomed.
What are two big triggers for me? For my gut problems is tomato and corn. Like those will set me back big time. If I have either tomatoes or corn, I'm dead in the water with either of those. Yeah.
You know that the garlic, it'll keep the vampires away, right?
So I'm lucky there.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is based on there's a thing called a place called Monash University, and they have an app you can get. Now the app does cost money to get it downloaded or get it registered or whatever. it's only a one-time payment. It is worth it. But if you can't do that, you can look online and you can see some things. There's some things that contradict. Like some things will say bananas are okay, some things will say bananas aren't okay. The app is kind of like the official Monash University. Like they were the ones who studied what are called FODMAPs, low and high FODMAP. And so if something is low FODMAP, it's incredibly safe or probably safe. High FODMAP is usually like garlic, onions, bran. Like I showed my mom what they have, because what they have is they have like a stoplight thing where it's like red is bad, orange is maybe, it gets more complicated, but green is okay. And if you look at fruits and vegetables, it's just red.
Wow.
Because
Wow.
so much fruit has the sugar part of FODMAP in them.
Don't eat healthy. Don't
Yeah,
eat
exactly.
healthy.
I can have all the beer I want. I can have. I can't have.
Yeah.
I also have lactose intolerance, so I can't have. It's so aggressive that, like, it used to be not that bad. Now it's so aggressive that if I can't eat chocolate because of the milk in the milk chocolate.
Oh man.
Yeah.
But let's see.
We have.
But yeah, like one of the things you do when you're learning about your body, basically, is what you have to do in order to survive, is you go elimination diet. So you'll go right down to low FODMAP things only, because there's also the factors of how much stress you have and how much of that higher FODMAP thing you had. Like you might be able to have a few grams of something and it's fine, but maybe you can't, or maybe it's like, if I know I have, like the joke I said before, if I know I have to leave the house, or if I know I have to do a podcast, my body ramps up a little more because I'm not just at home totally safe. Now, it's a lot of it. Like one of my 3 jobs, because I have 3 contracts. The one that acts up the most is this one where the washroom is all the way up a gantry thing down and around the corner.
Oh,
So because I know that, it knows that.
Yeah.
So it picks up immediately.
Yeah.
Whereas
No,
the other ones where the washrooms are
that
everywhere.
makes sense. That makes sense to me too. Yeah.
Yeah. Like
we,
calling.
we have Sapphire M in chat, and she says she literally did an H. pylori test today, and she says, I suspect it's going to be celiac though. The doctor had me do both tests. She says she's been eating gluten for a month and it was awful. She says.
Oh,
yeah. And then Dan is in chat too, and he says corn 100%. That's a problem for him too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I was
even
for me, when it comes to gluten-free, you can, like, I've done gluten-free bread. This is, I mean, as people know, I'm the basic income guy. I'm gonna probably end up going in that direction because that's where I just go. But I mean, one good example is when it comes to, I mean, this is one of the places. Okay, what the hell? I'll just go straight in. Between, Cece had diabetes. So she, so there was those food considerations. Because of the diabetes, there was also, it led to sodium intolerance, nightshade allergy, so she couldn't have tomatoes at all. This is where when people say, not UBI, UBS, Universal Basic Services, the problem with that is, I've experienced food banks with 2 different loved ones, including Cece, and we used to go there, and we used to also go to Oxford Foods, which is no longer here. It used to be the cheap store down in Cook Street Village, and like you'd get to the point where you'd be throwing out so much of the food bank stuff because nobody could eat it,
right?
Because they give you loads and loads of cans of tomato.
Oh,
you can't have those, and neither can I. So gone.
Yeah.
And then you'd have stuff where the food bank stuff would get mixed in with the Oxford food stuff, and then both would go bad. So you have that. You have the fact of like I say, like, what would you, if it was like a free food program, what food would you give us? You have to do the elimination diet, like I said before, where you go, right, okay, I know this is safe. Like what I'm going to have before work today is plain rice, margarine, chicken strips that I know are okay, and then low FODMAP vegetables. Those are all in there. It's like, if I go, right, I'm going to now try adding this. If it doesn't work, it's like, ooh, okay, that didn't work. That brings up a good point as well, which is that I work 6 days a week. So Saturday, it's like if I want to, throw caution to the wind, it's like that becomes test day. So it's like,
Oh.
let's see if I can try this food. You don't want to do it at night because I don't want to wake up at 3 hours later with an issue.
Yeah.
So you have to do it when you know you don't have anything to worry about for the next 5 hours. My IBS is so aggressive. If I eat the wrong thing, really wrong, I can be basically housebound for 12 hours.
Yeah.
And that's what drives me towards like the post that you saw where I just got like the right things are going. Like it was already something had happened with a family thing and I couldn't go and people were kind of frustrated. But it's like if it gets if it gets worse for me, there's the thought of and you can go on disability because of IBS. It's like and I don't want to. But it's like you can go. Like my band would go first because like why practice when you can't even crawl on stage? So and because a show is a show and you want to do the best job possible and you're not going to be near a washroom of like I prep for 24 hours before any show and I'm eating extremely careful, but even if that's not able to do it, then that's out. The next step is work. It's like I have to finish by 7 a.m. If it starts being like a thing of like you can't do that, then that's that. Then like that's why I do janitorial.
Well,
I used to work behind counters. I can't do that now. I can't go.
Yeah.
Sorry, boss. I got to go to the washroom for an hour.
And let's go back to the washroom thing because it's a big thing because as soon as you said that, it rang alarm bells for me too because I mean everybody on the podcast here knows that I broke my hip a couple of years ago and that really set me back and more than anything, it's tied me so that I have to be closer to a washroom in the sense that like my mobility sucks. So like I can't use crutches anymore. So the fact that I can't use crutches anymore actually limits how I use a washroom. And it sounds like a really bad excuse. You think, well, Neil, can't you just learn how to use a washroom in a wheelchair? And you can say, well, sure. But for somebody like me that's never really grown up with a wheelchair, and I mean, it's a really big adjustment, and you just can't all of a sudden just flip a switch and all of a sudden I'm a master in a wheelchair and I can get in and out of bathrooms by myself in a wheelchair. It's really difficult, right? So
it is.
So that's what I mean. Like this whole breaking my hip has really tied me to washrooms that I know are going to work. And now I spent $15,000 on my bathroom, rental from a bathroom. And somebody could say, well, Neil, why could you spend that so much money? Well, it's not that I wanted to, it's that I had to.
Needs versus.
I didn't have a choice. I had to. So
that resonates with a lot.
So I got an accessible washroom, accessible shower, and now I have the washroom set up exactly the way I want. The idea of me going on a holiday or a vacation somewhere and not knowing how that washroom is going to be set up, it scares the shit out of me. Like, pun intended. Like Dan just said, if he couldn't eat tomatoes, he'd lose his shit. Well, same thing. Like if I didn't know I could depend on a washroom, how it was set up, I would lose my shit too. Like it's just so much of a barrier for me. Is like, how is the washroom set up, and can I get around easy, right?
Yeah, it's like what people used to be able to do, and maybe what their life, what they were used to doing, like a certain routine, or then all of a sudden things happen in a person's life, like yourself, Tom. What's happening with you, and Neil? What happened to you, and like for myself, what I used to be able to do, and the mind says, oh yeah, like yeah, it's all fine, but the body says, no. There's reality. And so like you look back at it and you say, oh wow, I mean, I used to have to do this and that and this and that, or I used to work up at the counter, like you described, Tom, and like I did that too. And now no, like standing in one spot, it puts pressure on my back now because I injured my back, and of course there's an indication of scoliosis too, like it's in the family history. So there's indication of that. I was told that when I had chiropractic and physiotherapy, that there's an indication there, Brent, that that it'll develop more as life goes on. I'm like, oh, Oh, great. Yeah, let's just add it to the list. He goes, yeah, might as well. What the hell, right? I mean, funny doctor, right? But at the same time, I never take things for granted because things can happen so quickly and it can turn a person's life upside down. And and then that will lead into another discussion that we'll have further in the podcast that we talked about before we came on air. Yeah, but it also
Stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for that. Yeah.
And it also kind of stems into what your expertise, what we do a lot of research on, Tom, basic income. So we're going to kind of dive into that too. But when it comes down to certain kind of foods, I found over time, like there are certain things that I love to eat. Like I'll have peanut butter. I'll have to have jam, peanut butter jam sandwich. I mean, who doesn't want that, right? But here's the thing. I can have certain breads and it doesn't affect me. I have other breads, and all of a sudden I'll put the peanut butter on. Boom! I don't even put jam on sometimes, and it'll just boom! It'll hit me for no reason. All of a sudden, like my stomach just cramp right up, and I'll get side effects. Or I'll eat an apple, certain kind of apple, the acidity in the apple, and I get a certain reaction, and my whole mouth it just feels like my throat's getting sore, and all of a sudden then boom, it's gone away. It's so allergic reaction on certain foods that people will maybe take for granted. They'll eat and say, oh yeah, for me, yeah, like that's how it affects me, but other people maybe not, right? Anything acidity, I can eat, but I have to be really careful on certain things I've noticed. So yeah, I guess as we get older, we develop more things. So
no, it's funny with the apple thing because for everyone else, the apple a day keeps the doctor away. For us, apple a day brings the doctor over. Because apples are actually extremely high FODMAP. Most fruits are. Oranges are. Sorry, oranges are. It's kind of annoying right now because we have the tariff thing. Most of the oranges that I would get would come from California.
Yeah.
But oranges in fruit are fine. All juices for me are out. All juices. Wow. Everyone is out. So because of the amount of orange that gets used. But
even cherries, like I mean, like there are certain cherries. Yeah, same thing.
Billaboo, I did that. There's some like Monash University is. I'm just going through some of the notes that I did put down. There's some products out there like Monash University is sponsored a company called FODY, FODY.
Okay.
Their stuff is like it doesn't taste amazing because they took all the garlic and onions out of it, but it's like it's not bad and you'll be safe. But what else? Oh yeah, when it comes to bread, I've actually been using just white bread. Brown bread's out. I've tried spelt bread, but it's expensive. Those are usually like from a local thing. Sourdough is classically better, but the only problem with sourdough, when I was sick once, sourdough would set me right off because it's so strong.
Right.
If you're feeling not that good and not only having sourdough in the house is kind of rough. There's also there's a few different things like I mentioned the Monash FODMAP diet app. It's called Monash University FODMAP diet app. There's an app called Nerva. I've done that one. I've spent a lot of money on these. Now, Nerva is kind of expensive, but it's if it works for you, it's not bad. I did that before going to London, which is speaking of not knowing about washrooms. Like for me, it's one of the reasons I'll go to Starbucks is not because I'm like, oh, I'm so fancy. It's because it's a door that I can lock.
Right.
You know, I cannot handle those like stall washrooms. Forget it. You know, when I was going to London, I was literally I think there's an app where you can find where all the washrooms are in an area.
Oh wow!
Using that with London, like, and I was doing Starbucks over there. I was using Starbucks as like they end up being kind of like, okay, I'm safe right now. I think I'm okay. Let's go out.
Wow.
Let's see. So
that was your safe word, is Starbucks.
That was my safe word, my safe home.
Wow.
There's the Calm Meditation app. This is what I did originally, was a meditation app and jogging, which is hilarious because jogging brought my arthritis in.
Oh yes.
Because I was trying to because it was working, and I was also like, I had a doctor say, well, yeah, if you can get your weight down, maybe that would help a little bit with it. Now, for some people, of course, that's out of the question to do that in the first place. Now I'm trying to I either have to just go for really long walks. My work has almost taken it over these days, but or you have to find places that have chip trails and run on that as opposed to on concrete. Like I mentioned, the gum, of course. And let's see, certain teas are really good. Like ginger turmeric's really quite nice.
Yeah,
Some
ginger
teas.
is great for me. I love ginger.
Yeah.
I like ginger tea.
Let's see. I mentioned the food test. Yeah, the other thing, when it comes to basic income, like bringing basic income into the subject of IDS, the other thing is really, I think where it would help is giving people enough financial bandwidth to do the experiments. You know, like I mentioned on a thing recently, people say, oh, you should buy local. Well, I tried doing that with some sausages. They're still in the fridge. If Brent, if you want some sausages, come on over. Because I can't eat them. I got two ones by a certain local company. First one, boom, because the ones from America, I think they're called Jackson or something, and they're from Mississippi. They were okay. Then I tried this other one, not okay. Now what happens is, because that food is now, you wasted the money on that food.
Oh yeah.
Now you've got to buy the other food.
Yeah.
And so if the first food was like twice the cost, because local brands quite often are, you're now paying 3 times the amount of food, 3 times the amount of money for the food.
I find
so it's like, in order to have the money to do the test to expand your diet, you need to have the money there in the first place. And that's where basic income can kind of give you a little bit more financial feeling of, I'm going to try this. I'm going to see if I can do this. I'm going to try this recipe. I've got so many low FODMAP recipe books. Sometimes they work out, sometimes they don't. Having the time as well to be able to sit back and go, okay, I'm going to try this and see if you can get it to work. You know, having the time to also, like when I first had this, I was spending so much time just like reading. I was very lucky because I, at the time when it kicked off, I was working as a full-time writer, I was very lucky. I connected with a producer and my former co-writer, and we had a show called Ollie and Emma, which is online. Which is basically about my relationship with me and Cece, a white guy and a native girl. And it was kind of like a comedy thing, and we got telesoptic with it. And so I was a full-time writer. So I was fortunate to be self-employed. I didn't have any place that I had to go other than like once a month for a meeting or something. Yeah. And so I had more time to be able to like really dig the hell into it and try to understand it. And so that year really helped me for now. You know, and so that's where it's like what we had was this Canada Media Fund thing that our producer had evened out over the months. It was other than the monthly meeting, it was basically like a basic income. So I kind of experienced what it was like, and having that security, I'm like, that's something I want everyone to have. You know, it's like one of the many reasons. You know. Well,
you know, and I found that when I go to the store, like we have a store that's close by here, and it's like a local store, you know, let's say shop local. Well, I mean, the prices, I mean, they're going up, even though they're local. The store is trying to keep the cost down as much as possible, but because they're having to now source to other countries to get the same product that they would have normally got from the USA. So now they're having to source to like areas of like, from not even just Mexico, but you're looking at Australia. I mean, all sorts of countries. And so now they're having to bring them in, but I hear that the prices are going to be going up. So if we don't use the product or the item, and our fridge acts up on us, which it does, so hopefully, knock on wood, you know, that the produce stays. But you know, $3.49 a pound to say broccoli. Well, if it goes to waste or the fridge spoils it, now you have to buy it again. So now you're looking at almost $7, you know, a pound. So these items that we have to really be really careful of. Are we going to use that item up like now? If you cook it, here's a little hint for everybody. If you cook up the item now, it's going to last a little bit longer than on the shelf life than just raw in the fridge. So we found that out, as long as the fridge doesn't freeze the stuff. You know, hey, you want frozen broccoli or carrots? You know, so I mean, just think the basic income would definitely help these things with the cost of living going up. And
let's go back to food banks too. I mean, the thing that gets me about food banks is, you've both kind of touched it on already, is that they're not tailored to the person. I mean, everybody's food needs are different. Like you said, I mean, if you're just getting a bunch of cans of tomatoes, they're useless to you, right? And I mean, there's so much food that if you're not getting the food that is actually tailored to you that you know you can eat, I mean, the food banks do nothing for you. They do nothing for you. So, you know.
I always say my motto is just give the people the resources what they need to make those the appropriate choices for themselves to buy need because the person knows best what their needs are versus what the food bank would provide. And again, I mean that comes down to a basic income model. And also, I mean, the BC government, for instance, since we're in BC, they'll say, well, you can apply for all these other supplementary things to, that you can get. Well, you need to have all these medical conditions in order to qualify to get all these other supplements because they'll splash it out there, Tom. Well, yeah, we've got all these supplements you can get. Well, you have to have these underlying conditions. If you don't have it, you can't get it. It's like it's like that CDB. Well, in order to get it, you got to have a DTC.
It's what I learned. Yeah, it's what I learned from the late Shay Smith, homelessness advocate here in Victoria, where he had housing, and then he got into an argument with somebody over some spilled water, and he was out. He would be alive if that argument hadn't happened. This is what I've been saying since I learned about that from him, which is that for every in of a program is an out of a program. Whereas money is just money. This is where it's one of those funny things where with basic income, where both sides see it as the ultimate weapon of the other side. What's funny is a lot of libertarians like Wilhelm von Mises, Milton Friedman, Friedrich Hayek, who founded the Mont Pelerin Society that was all about getting rid of socialism. They, like von Mises said, like a person with money in their hands is far more effective at getting what they need than any government official could possibly hope to do. And he's right. And people go, oh my God, that it is this evil capitalist thing, and it's neoliberalism. But at the same time, you have people like Guy Standing and Yanis Varoufakis, who are definitely on the left, who are like, well, it is redistributive, and it gives the most powerful thing about basic income, like I experienced with when I had Canada Media Fund, was it creates security. It's like you can't fall below here. Like the current system, it's like, like, oh, if you don't do this, or if you do that, or this thing, or you annoy this person, then all of a sudden, it just makes that impossible. And then it's not a panacea. We can add other things on top, but it creates that feeling of, okay, I've got this. I can leverage this to like, let's figure this food thing out or whatever. Like and do those tests. I'm still doing them all the time. Like even before today, it's like, okay, so tomorrow I think I might be doing a family thing, so I can't have anything tonight. I literally I check the labels on things. I make sure it doesn't have milk because that's suicide. But it's like, okay, because I've never had a frozen food that I can just come home and make. If I didn't make something, then I have to stay up until almost 5 a.m. making food, which is annoying. So it's like I was like, let's see if I can find one that works. So I've got one in the freezer. I can't actually use it until next week because that's when the next safe time is.
Right. Okay.
So creating a little bit more bandwidth for everybody, time wise or money wise or whatever, is just such a bonus. And it's like there are so many people. Like once you hit 40, like that for me, when I hit 40, that's when it started. And it's like I never would have known that it was like that when I was in my 20s and 30s. Like I remember walking home in my 30s drinking chocolate milk all the way home. I could never do that now.
Well, and I have to be honest and say, like, maybe part of it is my fault that it triggered early in my 40s, because that just so happened to be right when my son was born. And I think every parent that's listening now or will listen or is in the chat maybe now knows that when you have a newborn baby, that baby becomes the end all and be all, and your own personal well-being just goes right down the toilet, like another figuratively speaking, right? And so, for example, you take shortcuts like it's like, well, we don't have time to like cook a meal because we have to look after the baby. So let's just do like pizza, or let's do and let's do pizza again, and let's do pasta again, and let's do cheese toast again. Like all this kind of stuff where you're taking a whole bunch of shortcuts, and it just sucks for your body, right?
Yeah,
and you're not sleeping well. You're not eating well, and that takes a toll. And so I think that was kind of what's kind of set me off was that. I can't prove it, but I think that was a big part of it, though.
Well, it does, Neil. Over time, it takes a real toll. I mean, it's just like you're pushing yourself, push, like, you know, and it's like Superman, like it just go, and then of course the mind says yes, the body says, "What the hell are you doing?"
Don't
well,
do this.
Also, like, I just thought as you were talking, like, I mean, as a, you know, I've never met him, student of Guy Standing. I immediately click into like, you're doing the work of care. Like you're actually you're working. And so you're kind of like, I got to do this work. I can't be doing this over here. So I'm going to focus on this. And food. Okay. I'll grab me a pizza.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I keep looking at the chair and going, the reason I filmed here, this used to be Cece's favorite chair. This blanket I got from the service, but this has become my meditation spot. And that's another thing to kind of help. They can kind of help a little bit, is like calming your mind, because there is with IBS. I don't know if it's the same with some of the other ones like celiac. I don't think it would be the same with celiac, but with IBS, there's a lot of talk about the vagus nerve thing. Like you can look up vagus, VAGUS nerve meditations. I mentioned Calm, Nerva. It was NERVA. Again, they're expensive, but they have some free. I think they have some free meditations on YouTube. But
is it true that
the main thing is like sitting, breathing, focusing on your breath, and clearing your mind, and just like even just slowing down can help that little bit.
I was just gonna say, Tom, is what happens in Vegas stay in Vegas?
No.
What happens in the vagus nerve stays in the vagus nerve.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But it goes back to that thing of like, you know that you have to leave the house, so your body acts up. And poor Cece went through the same stuff. It's like as soon as we got close to when we had to leave, it's like she'd be like, "Oh man," and like sure enough, the body starts acting up because it knows.
Chain reaction, eh?
Yeah.
You know, and that's kind of where we kind of stem into the branch into the conversation of the work. Like it's like saying, well, work is who the person is. No, work is what the person goes to. But if you're given a basic income floor, now you're getting that standard where if the work is there, I mean, that's an option if you can maybe explore that. But if the person can't do what they used to be able to do, and further on disability through the province, and you don't have a physical address, like you mentioned, Tom. I mean, a good example is something went haywires. Well, now you lose that your shelter. I mean, God forbid, right? The government take away the shelter portion. I mean, $500
to live on.
What the hell, right? I mean, my view, it should just be a basic income and call it a day, right? But
it's a subsidy for landlords.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I mean, especially, I mean, I rent from a corporate landlord. My manager says all the time, well, why didn't the government give you a rate increase in 2 years? I go, because I guess it wasn't really a priority to them. Well, yeah, but you got to pay your rent, because if you don't pay your rent, guess what? I go, well, I guess I'll be homeless. Oh my God. She goes, yeah, but then you'll lose the $500. I go, yeah, but hey, I could go and get a nice tent, right? No, Brent, you don't want that. I go, well, yeah, but I'd qualify for BC housing then. There's a long waiting list. She said there's at least a 20-year waiting list. And I mean, but do you really want that? No. We got joking around about this and that, right? And we were talking about basic income, and she said, like basic income is what people need going forward. And she said it's not rocket science. And again, like this is coming from a corporate manager. She says, I don't understand why the government just can't do that. Like it costs more to keep people in poverty than it does to provide a basic income. Like she says, it's not rocket science. And hello, folks, that's coming from a corporate manager.
Well, and the way the system is set up right now, we've talked about it all the time, is that it's set up like it's a system of have and have-nots, right?
Yep.
Yeah. It's like it's the same, like we always talk about. It's you're dealing with the same crowd of say PWD. So you got like 15% of that PWD, they get the subsidized rents, but 85% of the same PWD don't get it.
Yeah.
You know,
So here's the reason
it's
behind
just,
it.
it's just so stupid. It's like, why they do that, I don't know.
It's saying that basically like the ones that PWD and market housing, because they get the shelter, they don't qualify for subsidized housing. If they took the word shelter out of it, they just called it income assistance. Okay, so I'll just give it a generic name or call it I don't know, strawberry pie. Okay, so everybody's on strawberry pie, right? I mean, I'm just being funny here.
There's always more strawberry pie to bake.
Yeah, exactly. So everybody's under that one umbrella. Well, now everybody can either have a basic income or you can get subsidized housing. You now qualify. But because that word shelter's in there, it's stopping people from getting that program. Now, in the BC budget, like they gave an increase or caseload increase, not an increase, caseload increase for the RAP, meaning the rental assistance programs for single mothers, single fathers. So what they've done is they increased the threshold, the threshold of the income, so that you could qualify for.
But see, I never got that. I was single for 5 years. Never got that.
Oh, and now the other one is the one for safers. It's a seniors supplement to qualify under BC Housing umbrella and extension off of them. It's the same thing. They got a little tiny bump up. Okay, I mean, great. That's good for the seniors, but PWD, none, or anyone in subsidized housing, none. So I'm gonna give a quick overview of for everybody listening and kind of following along of, well, why would they do this in BC for PWD for no rate increases? So history lessons, quick, FYI, like these are just quick stats. In 2017, BC NDP formed with the BC Greens as a coalition, supply and agreement, which is good, right? I mean, it started out great. So right away, the NDP gave a $100 increase right away. They didn't want PWD to wait till the 2018 budget because they waited so long about any rate increases. So they got a $100 increase. 2018 came, so that was a budget of 2018. There was actually technically no increase there because they gave the $100 early. And everyone got that, they understood. But what they did was they introduced the bus pass subsidy. So you can either have $52 added to your check, your monthly check of PWD or income assistance, or you took the bus pass, which you then would get that $52. That $52, you can use it for groceries, you can use it for your hydro, cable, taxi, pay a friend to take you anywhere. Buy a pizza. I mean, buy some. I don't know. Pop-Tarts. I don't know, like whatever you want to, use it for. But now you got no transportation. So that was in the 2018 budget.
Equity in the system, Brent. Equity in the system.
Yeah, equity in the system. So 2019, $50 increase for all PWD and income assistance. Now, so that's two increases. So in 2020, we all know COVID came and decimated around the whole world. Okay. But there was nothing in 2020 all the way to 2023, there was nothing in the BC budget, technically. But there was one increase in 2021, they said there was an increase for the 175 supplement that was given as a COVID supplement, $300. It was actually left with 175 left of it. And about 2 years later, in 2023, they gave back 125 to some PWD, but you had to prove though, Tom, and the listeners, you had to prove that your rent actually went up in market rent. If your landlord decided, if say you rent from a basement suite, or some landlord who said, you know what, I'm not going to raise your rent this year, annual rent increase, I'm going to give you a break. They can do that. It's their choice. But if they didn't go up, people wouldn't have got that 125. So because most market rents do go up annually, most PWD who did get that, they got that increase, but the ones in subsidized housing got nothing. Their cost of living did go up. So shame on the government for that, right? But in 2 years, no increases. So I do the math though. It technically in the budget, it only went up twice.
Yeah.
Like really, but the government says five times they increased the rates. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that out. Like how is it
Yeah.
5 times, right?
It's a shell
Yeah.
game.
It's shell game. You
Yeah.
jump it around.
Pink unicorns and shell game.
Again,
Uh,
basic income would actually solve that problem
Yeah.
because there's the inequality of saying, well, have and have not. It's like, well, you're in subsidized housing, you don't need an increase, or
well,
market.
Well, like what's been talked about, what you guys have talked about before, is what's happened with Mike Harcourt, and he also had that guy out in Ontario around the same time as Harcourt,
Yeah,
the Ontario premier, who was a disaster, and
yeah.
a lot of that was because of the neoliberal agenda started in the 1980s, and when the Berlin Wall fell, it was this kind of what was called the Washington Consensus of no alternative, and so in England you saw universal credit, in America you saw Bill Clinton. We're going to end welfare as we know it. TANF in BC, Harcourt in, all over the world. And so that eventually drove this kind of like, get everything out of the way of the market, total individualism. I mean, like, we're looking at what's happening. It's terrifying to me what's happening with Keir Starmer right now, who is decimating Social Security, disability. The fact that, him and Carney are like, I mean, they've met each other. He was the finance minister or whatever for them, their bank or whatever. So, and now there's no disability minister. Now, hopefully that's a transitional thing because it's all going to get announced on Sunday. But that's terrifying. And there was a really great movie, which everyone should watch, called I, Daniel Blake. And what's funny is they actually referenced universal credit because it was, what was that creep's name? Anyway, the guy that brought universal credit in, he mentions him in the movie. And then what's funny about this movie is the fact that the producer actually is more into job guarantees than basic income, even though his character wouldn't benefit from a job guarantee. But what's really interesting, when we were talking about jobs before, the character, Daniel Blake, in I, Daniel Blake, he's an older guy. He's got a heart condition. His doctor has said, you've got to get on assistance. You can't work anymore. If you try working, you're dead. And so he's like, oh, I miss working, because he worked as a carpenter.
Yeah.
And so he goes to the job center and he's trying to work with this computer. And this young lady who's also trying to get on assistance, she helps him. He's like, oh, cheers for that. And so he's struggling and trying to get on assistance. He moves in next to where that young lady and her kid live. And what's interesting is she needs a new, she really needs some furniture. And so he, as a carpenter, makes her the furniture. Now, he's not making the furniture at a full tilt capitalist speed.
Yeah.
But he's still doing the work. You see,
right.
it's like this is where basic income comes in screaming hot, because it gives you it gives you the ability. It's not like this nonsense of like, oh, they're going to bring in robots and UBI is going to be your allowance. Fuck off with that shit. Like, it's like basic income creates a floor. Above that, you can decide what to do. Somebody could go, I'm going to do this thing. I'm not going to do it at the same level I used to do it, but I can still make money doing it. Or I'm going to do this other thing. Or I can do this amount of work. Like if there's an IBS sufferer, you can go, I can't work like I used to, but I still can work.
Right.
Like all of a sudden your options start to open.
Yeah.
That's what's great about putting down a solid
like
floor.
Brent and I can do a podcast for 2 days a week.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm going to mention that, like, Tom, because that kind of branches into the next topic would be like Work BC. Work BC in British Columbia. Just so maybe Tom or Neil, maybe you can maybe let our listeners and our viewers know, what is Work BC?
Well, I can speak to that because I started working for the Disability Foundation, which is a foundation that was started by Sam Sullivan, the MLA Sam Sullivan. We all know who he is, at least in BC here. We should know who he is.
Yes.
But so he started this whole foundation, and so I started working for them it was 2012 actually it was, and it was right around that time that the Work BC offices also kind of got birthed. So it was an idea from the BC Liberals. This Work BC was a birthing. That was their idea. Like, let's create these satellite offices, and we'll have a bunch of satellite offices in Surrey. Like, well, I think there was 6 offices in Surrey, like one in Whalley and one in, let's see, one in Whalley, one in by Guildford, say, and one in White Rock, and a couple other ones. But I think there was like 6.
Yeah, one in Langley too.
Yeah, so and then there's other ones in Langley, and then there's of course ones in Vancouver and Burnaby and all over the place. There's little satellite offices, and because they were new at the time, there was no kind of standard. Like, you know how if you we talk about this all the time, is like when you have a McDonald's, like you can go into McDonald's anywhere in the world, and you know you're what the burger's going to be, you know what the fries are going to be, you know, like you have an expectation of what to expect when you walk into any McDonald's, right? Well, with the Work BC offices, there really was no standard. It was kind of just all over the place, and so it really depended on who was running those offices, on the kind of quality that you were getting. And I do have to say, like, there were some offices that you went into, and like I was talking to those offices all the time because that was my job, to interface with them. All the ones in Surrey, I was doing all the ones in Surrey and Langley, actually. I was talking to all of them, and again, some of them were really good. They were really plugged in, and they kind of knew what we were trying to do is we were trying to plug people with disabilities into jobs, and that my primary job was to function as a cheerleader, like as somebody like rah, you can do it kind of thing, and plug them into the right kind of job, or like explore. It was more of explore. I mean, you just talked about exploring different foods, right? It's kind of the same thing. You explore different kind of jobs, and say, well, maybe could you do this? Could you do this? And anyway, so the Work BC offices that worked well were the ones that kind of did this with us. They kind of did the same thing. It's like, how can we be the rah cheerleader in those localized offices, right? And the one advantage that they had, of course, is they had the money. Like, we were just one office. We were just one office in Vancouver, the disability office. And of course, like the Work BC offices, they like had, what is it, like 100 offices or something, right?
Oh yeah.
So they had way more manpower than we did. So like when they were starting, we were kind of telling them, like, try to set it up this way where you're kind of being an extension of us, being another cheerleader, and try to connect people with disabilities with kind of have a kind of a job exploration, kind of what kind of jobs do you think you could do kind of thing. And so for the offices that embraced that idea, it worked, but there was so many that didn't do that, and didn't really give a shit, and it was all about just collecting a paycheck for them. And you're going to get into this, Brent, but you know, about quotas, you know, about quotas, like how many people can we get in the door and say, tick, 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 we've ticked off a quota, and now we're making money for us, but we're not really helping the client, right?
And I mean, like there's so many different stories of what, you know, people's experiences are when they go to Work BC. Some they say it's great. You know, they got the knowledge out of it. Many of them did not get a job. Like Work BC, they'll give you the resources, they'll give you the tools, how to look for a job. They'll give you a job, a database to go and look through. Of course, a person could actually probably look at those job databases themselves too, right? But if you can't, they have the resources there for you. They also have resume making skills, like they teach you how to redo a resume if you haven't worked in many years. But what they don't do is cater to your disabilities. So if you have different disabilities that they're not familiarized with, I mean they'll do the best they can to try to match you up with an employer who may be able to accommodate your disability. But if that employer cannot meet that standards, now it comes down to that employer now, really, because the employer may say, well, I don't have that adaptive equipment on the job site to accommodate your needs, or it's going to cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars to basically do a refurbish of my business to accommodate not just you, but everybody. And then other people may say, well, I don't want that in here because I'm used to this way. Well, then, of course, that comes down to discrimination stuff. But anyway, I mean, I think it benefits everybody. However, Work BC, I think it's more of a click, not really, clickbait. I mean, I'm not, throwing Work BC under the bus. I mean, but I think it's more of a stats where you get so many people in there. You see an intake worker, and then you go and see a campaign manager who's going to, or a work manager or whatever it is, to kind of help you build your strengths, or not really build your strengths, but look at your strengths and your attributes, what your abilities are, and help you explore different jobs that maybe you might be interested in or what you have done. Look at your resumes, and kind of look at that, building that stuff up. However, like, there's no guarantee that you're going to get a job. So they call it Work BC. If someone's saying, well, they're out of work, well, they're out of work maybe because they can't do what they used to be able to do. And I know, like, for myself, I've done it. Like, I took a work exploration, like an exploration program in college before. I did a business administration program, customs, transportation, and infrastructure. I mean, tourism. I mean, I've done a whole bunch of courses, and the exploration one, like, I've done that. So, like, I know how Work BC works. Like, I've done all that stuff. So, like, for me, when I've injured myself, of course, I pushed myself too much when I was younger, to the degree that now I'm feeling the repercussion going forward, right? And my mind says, yeah, I mean, hey, this would be great. Go and do that. Well, the body says, Brent, no, you remember, if you do that, you're going to bugger yourself up. I mean, if I push myself and go to Work BC and say, yeah, I can do it, they're like, yeah, we can help you find a job. We can help you do this. But the jobs that they want to offer are stuff that I used to be able to do. Well, and so, you may be able to find, right?
Yeah, again, Brent, I just wanted to clarify and make the point again, though, that when I was doing the job at Disability Foundation, and again, it started back in 2012, and that was basically, again, when the birth of the Work BC offices happened. Is that some offices had a designated disability caseworker. Some of the offices had one, and some of them had nothing.
Right.
And there was a few case managers that really, really honestly cared about their jobs. They were honestly very passionate about their jobs. So, like, I would phone them up, and they would be right on the ball. They're like, yes, we'll do this. We'll be the railroad cheerleader too, and they were really good. But unfortunately, like, that was the exception and not the rule. Like I was saying when I talked about the McDonald's thing, is that you could never really guarantee it was what the burger was going to be, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, sometimes you'd get a good burger at one Work BC office, and then sometimes you wouldn't get any burger. Yeah,
the standard was always nice,
and so it was all over the place, right? So you'd get a couple that were really passionate, really cared about the work they were doing, and others could care less.
Yeah.
So I'm doing a thing right now on the history of work. I was talking about, I'm going to be I'll put this out. I don't know how long it's going to take me or whatever, but one of the things I've been looking into is the subject I was telling about, but before we started the show, on the subject of the workhouses that were mentioned by Oliver Twist and all that kind of stuff, and how not only have I heard researchers multiple times say that they were considered the income of last resort, which should resonate with people.
Yeah, but resonates with me. Yeah.
But also how, depending on what master and matron you had, it just made me laugh. Depending on what master and matron you had, completely changed how easy it was to get out of the workhouse and start working, compared to a really nasty master and matron. If you had a good one, like, yeah, you can go do that thing. Just see you back here at whatever, and hopefully you can go get it. It's the same thing. But I was also thinking about how, like, with my own experience of work before, which is other things that have influenced my decision to get into basic income. I remember being a wannabe bike mechanic a long time ago, and you had to do a lot of non-paid work, and you had to wait. The real hiring that would happen for bike shops around spring. So the idea of just go get a job, it's like, it doesn't work like that. And then other things that you do have to do volunteering. There was also the experience with I'm not going to say which company, but there was one of those kind of late, like, go there and they'll get you working today, get money by the end of the day kind of thing. Well, the problem is some employers would be like, great, yeah, come on in. Other employers would know where you obviously came from. They know that you're struggling, and they take advantage of it. So it's like giving people that security. That's where so much of what I advocate for comes from. It's not about inequality, poverty, but it's the security. It's the ability to do something without there being as much of a threat. And the ability to, like, start that little thing without worrying, oh, wait a minute, do I pass this? If I pass this point, does my drug coverage, does my disability get cut? Does my drug coverage with it get cut? All these things get cut? Or is it like, no, you can do whatever you want to do, and it's fine.
And I know your basic standards are there.
It's like freeing up people to actually try stuff out. That's what needs to happen. Whether you have and IBS is like one of those things that makes it more precarious. You know.
Well, I mean, having, like I say, a standard in place where not having to worry of saying, okay, well, if if I need to go to such and such, I'm still going to be having this in place. I mean, when I walked into a work BC recently because I was just kind of curious to see what was going on. And you're right. I mean, the environment. I mean, it's not for everybody, right? I mean, to look at their computer. I mean, the lady blew up this screen. Like, can you read that? No, I said, no, that print's tiny. She blew it up and then she says, can you read now? And I go, yeah. And she says, okay, you're struggling. So she had to blow up even more. It's just like, wow. And the look on her face, just like, oh, okay. It's like, okay, she's probably thinking, lovely. And, you're feeling the stuff. And
it's almost like you're disabled or something, Brent.
Well, it's like saying, well, why are you here? And I thought, I felt like so out of place. And I thought, well, and the first thing that came to my mind, of course, I didn't want to say to the lady, I mean, she was super nice. I mean, she went out of her way. And I thought to myself, just give people a basic income already. Like really? And I mean, I'm supposed to have an appointment. I'm not going to be going to it because it's not worth the while of knowing, like, putting yourself through that agony of pushing yourself, of saying, okay, now you're going to have a repercussion going forward, right? I say people should just keep advocating, pushing the government to bring a basic income in, or at least minimum, bring the rates up to no less than poverty level, as Jeff Leggett would say, no less than poverty level, tie it to inflation, and then from there, get them all across the country that way, and then let's get a basic income implemented in. So all of Canada, I mean, will now have who knows what the model will be based on, but I mean, eliminate poverty, because it costs more to keep people in poverty. I mean, I saw, like, I think it was a posting that you put there, Tom. It was about
I don't know where I got those.
About $500 a day for beds or something. Like, wow! Like, imagine that. That's like a PWD. That's your shelter portion for 1 month.
The cost of allowing people to be on the street is over double the amount that it costs to go of a full tilt, full blast UBI poverty level.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Double the amount. Yeah.
I remember down at the ministry's office downtown on Pandora in Victoria. I mean, the stories. I mean, and I was only there for a short period of time. I mean, Sonia had gone there. We were looking at before the bus pass came out, stickers. They had to put a sticker on them. We were going to stand there, and like it was. I felt bad. I really did. I felt bad because I didn't know where the lineup formed. I just saw people kind of scattered here and there. Oh, we just kind of walked up the stairs, and it was all fenced off, and a lot of homeless people kind of laying on. There was people laying on the sidewalk here and there. So I'm trying to navigate around them. I see their makeshift housing that they got up there, and it's so sad because it doesn't have to be that way. But then the city comes along and sweeps up all their belongings and throws them in the garbage, and then pushes them on to somewhere else where they're close.
Somehow that's going to end poverty. Yeah.
Well, yeah, they know where their source of where they need to get the help, and it's right there. So they push them on. Now, time to move on, right?
And I know.
Like,
yeah, I was gonna say. I know I sound like a broken record a lot of the time, but the thing that really bugs me about all these job creation programs like Work BC and the government saying, just get a job, just get a job, just get a job. Yeah. I mean, fine, you can say that, but when you say that and then you don't actually respect or honor work that has been done or you know what I mean? Because that goes back to the clawback thing of like, there's a whole shitload of people that have done work that have paid into like 20 years of work or more, and the government says, oh well, that doesn't count. You know?
Yeah.
And I mean, that is so insulting. That is so insulting.
It is insulting. It's like, you have left-wing economist, admitted Cambridge Marxist guy standing on this side. You have Milton Friedman, who definitely doesn't like Marxism on that side. Yeah. Both have said the same thing. I'll quote Milton Friedman. If what you want is jobs, cancel the tractor and give everyone teaspoons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, jobs are instrumental, as Guy would say. Like, it's like, you know, like there's so many different kinds of work, like you were doing, like talking about taking care of your son. Like, there's so many kinds of work that aren't labor, but there's still jobs. There's all kinds of things that need to be. And then you add the fact that the share going to labor has been going down. As the late Gerald Huff said, jobs of the future are not mass employers, which is exactly what we've seen. I mean, so much of when people talk about the globalism, it goes back to like what happened with that movie by Michael Moore, where he what was it? Roger and Me. That's it.
Oh yeah.
Why did Roger and Me happen? Because they can get cheaper labor across overseas.
Well,
you know, it's just, the incentive is there to do that instead. Like, that's the thing. Like as Victor Schvetz said, the share to going to labor has been going down and will continue to go down. So why are we going jobs, everybody, jobs?
Yeah.
Like,
well, when you hear the minister, though, I mean, for poverty reduction in British Columbia, said, well, I'm hearing from a lot of disabled people that the best thing that they need is a job. That's what they're telling me. It's like, well, no, like they're saying that what they want is a floor, like a standard level of like a floor level, and if they can't do something else, great. What they're saying is that they want more income because the cost of living is going higher. So
you know what I think, Brent? You know what I think is that Sheila Malcolmson is listening to the exact same 5 or 6 people that Michelle Stilwell was listening to back when she took away the bus pass.
But because there was a Zoom meeting, and they asked different things of different advocates, and we got to go into like a private room. You know what I mean? The white room. You know, the bad room. Here we go. But anyway, you got to say like what you wanted. I said like bring people's income up to a certain level. I mean, so they can thrive and make decisions of what they need. I mean, they want to move to a different place. You know, maybe it's better. It's not as deplorable housing or different conditions. They can better their health, their well-being in so many ways. The best way they can, anyway. Everyone has a different disability based on their own situations of lived experience, and I get that. But bringing people up to a certain level where they've got the resources where they can buy certain healthy foods of what suits their physical needs are, and I mean, and if they can do other, not just paid work, but if they can do other things to do things in society, in their community, I mean, awesome, right? But listening to a handful of people, just a small handful, to change a whole system.
That 5 or 6 people told me this. Must be true. Must be true.
But for the bus pass
it's
too,
like
you know what
respect
happened
people
there.
enough. It's like respect people enough to know that, you know, they know what to do with their lives. And I'll tie it up with with IBS. It's like, you know, do I want to have a terrible day with IBS today? Strangely, no. Do I want to make more money? Would I want to make more money than a basic income? Like, I'm the basic income Victoria BC guy. I always feel bad about this because I kind of borrowed a bit of the name from Conrad Shaw, the UBI guy. But as he said, it's like I don't think most people want to sit home in a room full of white walls eating ramen and staring at the wall. Like, like
Yeah.
it's everyone's whole life. Stop disrespecting people on disability. Stop disrespecting people, generally speaking, and say, right, I know that if I give you this, you'll know what to do with it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we have a gentleman who, I mean, this guy walks. I mean, I do a lot of walking around my community, and this guy can outpace me, and he's in his mid 80s, and this guy he walks like probably about 5 times longer than I do. I'm like, wow, and he told me stories where he actually was a minister in BC way back. I mean, you're talking decades ago. I mean, quite a few decades ago, and also in the federal parliament too. And so we talked about basic income, Tom, and he says, yeah, like he says, did you know that it was studied? It was as a min income in Manitoba. I go, yeah, that's right, yeah, and they shelved it. It was in a warehouse, and it was all dusty. They came across all these shelving of all this stuff put in there, and they pulled it out. And, oh wow, yeah, made sense, right? He says, and of course Ontario, oh no, looked at, oh no, we can't do that. And BC was trying to study at the same time. Same thing. They deliberately derailed it. No,
that will actually help people. We don't want that.
They're like, oh, this is going to be good, right? Oh, and then he goes, and apparently then they paid some people to study it, and then they weren't too interested, right? So. Yeah, but
it was the other way around. They weren't too interested, and they paid them.
Yeah. What he said. He said, he goes, go figure, right? He says, and because he was following it very closely, and I went, why would they do that? He goes, because they didn't want it to work.
Yeah.
He goes, but the reality is that it will work, though. He says it takes the political motivation to actually say, yeah, let's do the right thing. He says, as population ages, he goes, look at me, young man. I go, well, I'm young, but I guess I'm not as old as you, but you still look young. Hey, he says, I can still kick some ass, he said. I'm like, oh, hang on. Yeah. But yeah, anyway, we got joking around, but he said basic income is what is needed going forward. What model? I don't know, but he said it will happen. Who knows when, but it will happen.
Yeah.
But yeah,
guy's also in his 80s, or I think he's in his 80s now.
But he said it's about respecting society. But this gentleman, though, he said it's about respecting people, and their autonomy, and letting them make the right decisions for themselves, rather than restricting them and saying you can't do this and you can't do that. Yeah, you need to do what we're telling you because we're government, we know best. He goes, trust me. He says, I've been through that. I know. I said, so things can be changed. He goes, oh, of course they can.
But even if you weren't sure, and even if you just wanted to roll out a small sample pilot projects, like would it really be that hard for the government to here in BC to say, you know what, let's just roll out the basic income thing for everybody on PWD? Only people on PWD, and see if it works. Just see if it works. And maybe it's not going to work, but let's see if it works. And like they could try that. But there's the PEI demonstration. That's one of the things that's most, because I mean it's a small sample size. It's an island, so you get all the network effects without any kind of weird externalities. There are obviously PWD there, and just like. And the idea is to do a demonstration project where instead of a pilot, it's like what we did in Saskatchewan with our healthcare, where you start it up. All right, here we go. Everyone's off welfare. You're on the basic income. We're doing this like we're going to do it for real. And then it's like, oh, I think it needs to be more this way. Okay, we'll make it more that way. And then you're tailoring it back and forth. And, it's a little bit like that bit from Ghostbusters. What if you're wrong? If I'm wrong, nothing happens. We go to jail peacefully, quietly. We'll enjoy it. But if
just watch out for that marshmallow,
this thing. It's like, just roll it. And if you know what, if it doesn't work out, I'll quit. I'll just completely quit.
We're at the end of the hour. Actually, we've blown past it. So
just past the hour. Yeah. Well, it was a great conversation. We covered IBS, we covered basic income, we covered Work BC, we covered all the inequalities about
the shit hit the fan, Brent. The shit hit the fan.
And we covered about the inequalities about PWD rates in BC, and also we talked about Ontario as a comparison, as an overview of inequality rates and how it stemmed way back into like the late 1980s to early 1990s or mid 1990s, of when the system started getting all hijacked by governments at the time, of changed it. And I mean, one quick thing I'll throw in, as we said before, Neil. So people that are listening to the podcast on the podcast version or watching live, PWD in BC and Ontario, other provinces probably were the same, but BC and Ontario had in 1994, before 1994 and before, was a pension. It was a pension for PWD, and the government of the time, and BC and Ontario love to copy each other back and forth. They dismantled it. They took away a pension and turned it into a pink unicorn, like one right behind me. So it was made as income-based testing.
Income of last resort.
Yep, exactly. I mean, imagine if the seniors, they did that to their GIS. Shit with the fan beyond. I mean, imagine that. Oh, no, we can't do that, right? But I want to thank everyone for tuning in today. It was an awesome discussion. Tom, we're going to have to do this again soon. We'll talk more on basic income next one, and we'll pile in on a basic income show, and you can give the whole lowdown of the reasons why we need basic income in Canada. And thanks a lot, Tom, for joining me today, and thanks everyone for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. Please subscribe, like, and share. In the comments section, you're going to see the little $sign there. Well, we're live right now, and Neil will explain.
Well, and you got to do your outro, Brent. You got to say, I've been Brent Frayne.
Of course. Yes, so a new outro that I got to practice here, and I don't forget to do that. My name is Brent Frayne. I'm the host of PWD Allies podcast. Thanks for tuning in. And
I'm the editor producer.
Yeah, and Neil's the editor producer. Hey, we got that all buggered up here, but that's okay. We just wing things on the show and have a good time. We have a good time on it.
Oh yeah, and if anybody wants to buy us a coffee, that's where the dollar bill comes in. You can see it. It's in the live chat right now. And when the video turns into not in a live stream, it just turns into a regular video. You'll still see, after about 24 hours, you'll see the dollar bill again. It will be near the bottom. Reappears at the bottom of the video again.
Unicorn magic.
And you can still click the dollar bill and buy us a coffee.
It just magically appears.
It's like that cereal. What is that? That
magically
pink already magically. Yeah, exactly. And on that note,
I was at the grocery store one day. I just started howling. I was like, "Oh man!" Thanks everyone for tuning in today.
Okay,
Take care. Bye.
Bye.